There's a different level of pride and caring that I believe you have to have in order to bring out everything that you can possibly bring out in a national team game. I believe that with all my heart. Like,
but in modern day life, like split heritage.
I know. And look, I'm half Canadian, right? So like, I could have played for Canada. Right?
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Well, maybe now.
Yeah, maybe now, but
nice now.
He just took some L's back there.
You the Canada kid? Nah.
So I totally get that. But I'm also like, I still have a real connection with Canada. Like, I feel connected to Canada. But I was only ever going to play for the U.S.
You know, you just said, I totally get that. When I heard you say that, no disrespect, it didn't feel to me like you got it. It didn't feel to me like you understood that if you, like, let's say you're Mo, right? And you have Nigerian heritage and American heritage, that you can identify with both of those.
But of course you can identify with both. But that's what I'm saying.
Can you not identify with both of those and still love America?
Yes, that's what I'm telling you. Like, no question.
How do you judge that then? That's totally subjective, whether somebody loves America enough.
What I would say, the sacrifices you're making for your country on a consistent basis shows how much you care. And if you're not there often enough, then it doesn't seem like maybe people are caring as much. For me, that's what shows you care, if you're there during the tough times, the grind, taking those trips, risking injury.
But you're the same guy that wants to win at all cost, right? So don't you just want, hey, the best that's available to me?
Not with the national team. I don't feel that way. Not with the national team. I think there has to be something different inside you that drives you to play for the national team.
Isn't America a melting pot? Like,
yes.
Isn't that what America stands for?
I'm a melting pot. Like, I'm half Canadian. I have Middle Eastern descent. I have African descent. I have Irish, German descent.
So it's confusing to me. Help me understand this.
Yeah. I guess the best way I can explain it is, I am an example because I am extremely proud of my Canadian roots. Extremely. Like, I've known the national anthem since I was 8 years old. I watched hockey games with my dad growing up. Been to Canada countless times. I'm very proud. But I identify as an American. Like, I feel American. I would have felt I would have felt fraudulent playing for Canada, even though I'm extremely proud of my Canadian roots. I would have felt like I'm not really Canadian in the same way. That's the only way I can describe it.
So the question is, like, if you weren't good enough to play for the U.S.
I was going to ask that.
And then you're like, oh, Canada's like,
that's a fair
we got
question.
an opportunity for you.
It's a fair question.
Because let's say a guy like Jermaine Jones was a perfect example.
Yeah,
who's
it's a fair
gifted,
question.
but couldn't play with Germany.
For the record, by the way, Jermaine is not one of those guys I was referring to.
No.
Like, I think Jermaine cared. He.
But I'm saying, I guess
totally.
what they're trying to say is what warrants you to believe someone cared enough. Explain that.
I didn't say cared enough. I said I would care more than they do.
Oh, okay.
That's what I said. A lot more. And they won't, and I don't feel like they will care. That's just my feeling. I could be wrong. Other people can feel differently.
I was just saying, like, there's a difference between, like, a Jermaine Jones who would have played for Germany had they not been as good as they were. She chose the U.S.
his first choice would have been Germany.
Right, he chose the U.S. because that was the only opportunity for him to play in the World Cup.
But to that,
but his
Jermaine
mentality is different.
His mentality, he had to do something that made you say, oh, he
and he did. To his credit.
And like, what were some of those things that maybe some of these other guys didn't do?
All that. Like, you could tell he cared. When he was in, he cared. And it wasn't about him. It was about the country. It wasn't about playing in a World Cup or playing for a national team. It was about, like, I felt that way, at least. I don't know if you guys agree.
So is he an exception to that rule? You know what I'm saying?
Lots
do you
of
really think
It's
so?
not a rule. It's not a rule. It's just what?
I'm not questioning whether, like, I think isn't it always about us? Like, essentially, Jermaine wanted the experience of playing for a national team and playing at a World Cup.
We all do.
It's not totally altruistic where, hey, I just care about the American soccer team.
I'm not suggesting that. But he did all the
sacrifices
things.
that he made,
And he showed that,
the way in which he played, put his body on the line.
Yeah.
The travel, making sure that he was there for games.
But he also just felt like part of the group. right? Like he felt part, he integrated himself. It's like any player that comes to a club team too. If you don't integrate yourself and make yourself part of the team, it's like, okay, well then it's just about you.
Were you on the broadcast when Landon said that? Did you feel any kind of way about it?
My initial reaction was like, I got 3 kids that are, well, I have a third coming, but I have 3 kids who are gonna grow up that are gonna have so many components to them, Mexican, Nigerian, American, right? And so if the option comes up, I would want them to feel welcome in any direction, right, to all 3 of those countries.
But would you also want them to show that they're a part of those cultures, countries, national teams, et cetera?
Yeah, so how do you, so for the 3 of them, for example, I want them to play for the U.S., but if my child were to say, you know what, I want to play for Nigeria, or I want to play for Mexico, I would want them to go to that national team and feel welcomed, right? And feel like doors are open.
But there's a lot of nuance here too, because your point was right. Like, but if they tried to play for the U.S. and they wanted to, and they weren't good enough, then.
Even to that point, if they tried to play for the U.S. and they weren't good
enough,
and they had to go play for Mexico.
And that's why I'm saying it's a good question, because if I wasn't good enough and Canada offered me, being honest, I probably would have said yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
And so to that question.
So then you'd be the person that you ultimately.
But I can only tell you what I feel. Right? There's no like data to prove that what I'm saying is right. I just know that, one, I cared a lot more about the national team and what happened to it at that time than some other people. No doubt about that. 2, I didn't feel, and I think it's come to fruition, that they in any way were hurt by, devastated, disappointed in the same way that most were, that we did okay in the World Cup, but like when we lost or when it was over, that it was over. That's all, that was my point to Jurgen, is you're gonna have someone in who will fucking die for the country and the team, literally. Like that's how I felt. And then you're gonna have some people who are just like, oh, it's a few games in the World Cup, it'll help my career, and then I'm gonna move on. That's the way I felt.
Is there any legitimacy
Maybe I'm wrong.
to
I don't
that?
know.
Do you think?
Yeah, I think there is legitimacy to that.
But I think also there's a way, and I'm with you in terms of thinking, when I was growing up, the national team was the biggest thing. It was the thing that I saw representing your country in a World Cup, packed stadium. That was always the dream for me as a kid. But at the same time, I think there's a way that you can play for both your country and your club with the same mentality that people feel like you'll die out there for them.
Correct.
That you will sacrifice, which is Jermaine, that you would sacrifice your body, put everything on the line.
I felt the same about the Galaxy.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this then, right? So just going back to that 2014 team, right? If that team goes on to make it to the semis, do you still feel the same way?
Yeah.
No,
It's not about the success.
But so how are you quantifying or how are
care.
you like identifying their level of care? Because to me,
Because I saw it. I mean, I just saw it over months and months and months in camp. Come on, Mo.
no, I know. I'm just trying to figure out if
I'm
you're
just saying what everyone else was thinking, and no one's got the balls to say it.
No, I'm not. It's not even that. I'm just asking if you're saying that equates to performance.
I think there is. I mean, you can still perform without caring to that level, but I think there's something more you're willing to give when you care at that level, at the level I cared, and many others did.
Which essentially you're saying is Jurgen brought players who felt that this was an opportunity just to raise their profile, to play in a World Cup because they weren't going to get it in any other country, representing any other country, to compete and use that as a springboard.
I think a few players, if you sat them down with a lie detector test, would say, yeah, that's what it was. And in fairness to Jurgen, like, he just wanted the best team possible. So it's fine. If he thought that was what the best team possible was, that's totally fine.
Do you think that felt offensive to a certain section of America, you saying that? And does that perturb you in any way?
Yes and no.
Interesting.
I mean, it's just my feelings. I have a lot of feelings that people don't agree with.
And you're cool with that?
Well, what am I I can't. I'm 41, Kate. I got 3 kids. I'm just like...
Can't fake how you feel, I guess.
Thank you for watching. If you liked this episode of Kicking It, then don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to enjoy more raw and unfiltered content from me and the boys.